White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan will visit Saudi Arabia this weekend for talks expected to touch on a civil nuclear cooperation agreement, one piece of a wider arrangement Washington hopes will lead to normalization of Israeli-Saudi relations. Under Section 123 of the U.S. Atomic Energy Act of 1954, the United States may negotiate agreements to engage in significant civil nuclear cooperation with other nations. It specifies 9 non-proliferation criteria those states must meet to keep them from using the technology to develop nuclear arms or transfer sensitive materials to others. The law stipulates congressional review of such pacts. As the world's largest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia at first glance is not an obvious candidate for a nuclear pact typically aimed at building power plants to generate electricity. There are 2 reasons Riyadh may wish to do so. The first is that under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's ambitious Vision 2030 reform plan, the kingdom aims to generate substantial renewable energy and reduce emissions. At least some of this is expected to come from nuclear energy. Critics cite a second potential reason that Riyadh might wish to develop nuclear expertise in case it someday wishes to acquire nuclear weapons. Despite the safeguards enshrined in any deal with Washington to prevent this, the Saudi Crown Prince has long said that if Iran developed a nuclear weapon, Saudi Arabia would follow suit. A stance that has fueled deep concern among arms control advocates and some U.S. lawmakers over a possible U.S.-Saudi civil nuclear deal. The Sunni Muslim kingdom and Shiite revolutionary Iran have been at odds for decades. There could be strategic and commercial gains. The Biden administration has made no secret of its hope to broker a long-shot, multi-part arrangement leading Saudi Arabia and Israel to normalize relations. It believes Saudi support for normalization may hinge partly on striking a civil nuclear deal. The strategic benefits would be to shore up Israel's security, build a wider coalition against Iran, and reinforce U.S. ties to one of the wealthiest Arab nations at a time when China is seeking to extend its influence in the Gulf. The commercial benefit would be to put U.S. industry in a prime spot to win contracts to build Saudi nuclear power plants, as U.S. atomic companies compete with Russia, China, and other countries for global business. To start, it is all but inconceivable while the Gaza war rages. Israel invaded the Gaza Strip after Hamas-led gunmen on October 7 attacked southern Israeli communities, killing about 1,200 people and taking 253 hostages, according to Israeli figures. The Gaza death toll, health officials in the Hamas-run coastal enclave say, has risen to more than 35,000 and malnutrition is widespread. It is hard to imagine the Saudis being willing to normalize relations while Palestinians are dying in such numbers. The United States hopes to find a way to give Saudi Arabia several things it wants: a civil nuclear pact, security guarantees, and a pathway toward a Palestinian state, in return for Riyadh agreeing to normalize relations with Israel. Earlier this month, 7 people familiar with the matter told Reuters the Biden administration and Saudi Arabia were finalizing an agreement for U.S. security guarantees and civilian nuclear assistance to Riyadh. However, the wider Israel-Saudi normalization envisaged as part of a Middle East grand bargain remains elusive. A key issue is whether Washington might agree to build a uranium enrichment facility on Saudi territory, when it might do so, and whether Saudi personnel might have access to it or it would be run solely by U.S. staff in a black box arrangement. Without safeguards built into an agreement, Saudi Arabia, which has uranium or could theoretically use an enrichment facility to produce highly enriched uranium, which if purified enough can yield fissile material for bombs. Another issue is whether Riyadh would agree to make a Saudi investment in a U.S.-based and U.S.-owned uranium enrichment plant and to hire U.S. companies to build Saudi nuclear reactors.